Hi, this is Jan Spencer. I'm a board member of the River Road Community Organization. This is an unofficial video recording, but it's a recording based on a recent River Road Community Organization monthly meeting. I organized that program for that evening. The title of that program was Gardens Deliver More Than Fruit and Veggies. Not able to get that program onto YouTube. So what I've done is this recording I can put on YouTube because there's a lot of valuable information on that program. It's social, it's personal, it's the environment, it's building community. It's a lot of good reasons why gardens deliver more than fruit and veggies. So let's just get on with it. We'll share this. Here we go. This was February 12th, just a couple weeks ago, monthly meeting. So gardens can deliver more than veggies. And the program will feature a short history of agriculture in a River Road neighborhood. We'll take a look at permaculture in the neighborhood. In the live version of our monthly meeting, we had three representatives from the school garden project, Mims Garden, and Lane County Master Gardeners. They're not here with me today, so I'll just say a few things about those organizations, but they are important in the overall larger picture of the assets, the resources we have to produce food in the neighborhood, but also their social resources as well. So one of the goals of the meeting was to encourage people to start new gardens. We really would like to grow more food in the neighborhood. And then in the act of starting new gardens, we can have work parties and help each other put in new gardens. What you see here is kind of a, uh, a, a list of tasks a person could take on in the act of asking for help and putting in a garden where they live. And I'll also mention that, of course, this being on YouTube, you can stop the video anytime you want and take a closer look because there's content, there's images here in the presentation that you might want to take a closer look at because I'm not going to explain everything. I'm not going to read everything. So feel free to take a pause. So this is just a very simple timeline of agriculture in the River Road neighborhood here, just a couple miles northwest of downtown Eugene, Oregon, on the west side of the Willamette River. That's our eastern boundary for our neighborhood. There were the pre-European, there were the Kalapuya, the indigenous people. They had a very definite agricultural economy. Of course, it's very different from what we have now, but they purposefully modified the landscape for their benefit. We'll see a little bit more about that. There was an Oregon State Grange that came about in the early years of Eugene to facilitate agriculture. Here in River Road, over the years, different crops have been very important, including walnuts, filberts, hops, peppermint, grains at different times. Of course, here's World War One, here's World War Two, the year 2000, and then up towards the present. Woodruff Nursery, which was across the street from me, has a history dating back to the teens as a landscape and agricultural nursery. Um, and then we had flax, legumes, and dairy more around World War II. And it was this period where suburbia became a major item here in River Road neighborhood as the farmland was subdivided and turned into suburban houses, one of which I happen to own where I am right here. This used to be agricultural land. It used to be Kalapuya land as well. So since 2000, there's been a significant amount of uh, change and innovation in the neighborhood that falls under the term permaculture. We'll get to that shortly. So this is Kalapuya pre-European. This is northwestern Oregon right here. Portland would be right up here. Eugene would be right down here. Corvallis, Albany. The Pacific Ocean is here. And of course, Washington State and the Columbia River. The Kalapuya tended to orient themselves on watersheds. These are all rivers mostly coming out of the Cascade Mountains, and then there's some other water courses coming out of the coastal ranges. But these are all different indigenous groups that were here for thousands of years before the Europeans arrived. And these are just some pictures I found just of their different kinds of habitations. Very, very interesting. I love to see vernacular architecture. So the Calapuyans had a seasonal round, is what this is called. They had a winter place where they stayed up out of the flood zone. Historically, the Willamette River floods, and you don't want to be down here in the wintertime because it's wet, and oftentimes the water can come up to even where my house is now. It doesn't do that anymore as long as those dams upstream continue to do their job. But the Kalapuya, their round followed essentially different types of plants that would come into harvest capacity. The camas, they also did salmon, they hunted game, they burned the landscape. That's very interesting. The berries, a part of the season, making baskets. This is just a fascinating, this was their lifestyle and their economy. They would be down closer to the river in the summer, and in the winter, they'd be up away from the river and away from the floods, too. This is just a fascinating image. We know that the Kalapuya in many locations would burn the landscape to create environmental conditions that were beneficial to their economy, the types of plants they ate, and also to the wildlife that they hunted. So this image right here is said to be something like what the first Europeans might have seen in a large part of the Willamette Valley. It's an oak savanna. It looks like a park. Looks beautiful, and of course they would have acorns and other types of foods. All these pictures here show different types of foods that they ate. And of course, the Kalapuya had economy. They traded with nearby groups, just absolutely fascinating. And then, of course, the Europeans showed up and a lot of change happened. These pictures here are historical photos of River Road. This is Woodruff Nursery, as it appeared, it says 1930. And I'm taking a bit of an educated guess, but something like 25 years later, my house would have been built back over here in this area. This was a farmhouse. There were farmhouses along River Road, and as suburbia came into being. These farmhouses became surrounded by suburban houses. The dairy industry was very important. The hops, beer making, very important. This is a picture that shows some of the flooding. This was typical in River Road. This is what River Road looked like. It says 1920. At that time, it was the main highway between California and Washington State. It's not anymore. That highway is several miles off to the west at this point, but this is still the major road that runs through my neighborhood. And of course, it looks a lot different from that now. And this photo is an aerial photo from 1935. You can see the Willamette River over this way. And I have identified in white, these are some of the major streets and roads in River Road at the present time. This is River Road right here, Horn Lane, which is very near where I live. I would actually be right about in here, actually. And Maxwell, another important road. Even at this point in 1935, there was the rail yard, lots of logging that went on at that time, not quite so much anymore. There's a Beltline highway is up here, the water treatment plant. Um, North Eugene High School is now not this rectangle, but actually moved over in this direction here. But you can see this is by far mostly agriculture. These are agricultural fields, trees, nuts, vegetables, and some dairy. So this is what my neighborhood looked like 1935. This is another aerial photo that I actually took myself when I first moved out here in the year 2000. I wanted to see the neighborhood, so I paid somebody to take me up in a plane. I couldn't wait to get down, but I took some good photos while I was up for about a half an hour. This is Woodruff Nursery as it appeared 24 years ago. That one house we saw that I said that's an early photo of Woodruff Nursery. That's the house right there, and it would be looking off in this direction. And of course, my house is right here. We'll also be mentioning a couple other properties in the neighborhood. Dharmalaya would be right over here, another important place in the neighborhood. There's a park here right now, and more suburban. This is all turned into suburban houses along here. So even in the relatively short time I've lived here, there has been a lot of changes. And of course, there's the Willamette River, there's the bikeway over this way, the Filbert Grove is over here. So I mentioned permaculture because we want to take a look at the permaculture history of River Road. Permaculture is a design system with a set of ideals and principles for designing ways to take care of human needs uh, in a fashion that is healthy for people and planet. Permaculture works with nature. Permaculture ideals are to benefit people, planet, restoration of the landscape, positive for humans, positive for the planet. So this is a global phenomena. There are people interested in permaculture all over the world. It sort of came out of Australia, but a lot of this is simply common sense and ways of taking care of human needs in partly traditional ways, but also updating some tradition with science as well. Permaculture is very strong on science. How can we take the best from the past and the best from the present and put them together to take care of our needs in ways that are sustainable? That's what permaculture is about. So this timeline here, Now you can pause and take a closer look, but these are all places and events and occasions that have happened in the neighborhood since the year 2000. We've more people in the neighborhood have been doing like what I've been doing on my property. We'll see some pictures of that. We've had permaculture events. We've had site tours. We had the 2015 Northwest Permaculture Convergence. We'll see a little bit more of that, but this is just a timeline going from before the year 2000 and then up towards and beyond the present. This, again, an aerial photo thanks to Google. And this is what the nursery looked like several years ago. It's filled in. There's even houses here now that don't show up. This is maybe somewhat of a several years old, this image, the park down the street. The yellow here, that's rectangle is my place. This one is Dharmalaya. This one over here is Vistara. These are all particularly important locations in regard to permaculture here in my neighborhood. And uh, these fuchsia color are properties that are permaculture friendly. Doesn't mean that they have everything in permaculture, but they do have permaculture features and are the residents are also friendly to permaculture. We could even add this house right here as well. I should have that as well, my next door neighbors. So let's just take a closer look. This is actually my house. This is what my place looks like now. This is what my backyard looked like when I moved in. This is the same view some number of years later. My intention from the beginning was to do a permaculture makeover to my property. This is Dharmalaya in the early years. Ravi and Michelle moved in just a year after I did. I didn't know them, they didn't know me, but we made friends before too long. They have more of a half an acre, and this is a beautiful straw bale structure they built because part of their ideal is to create a place for learning, for building community, for building skills for a more sustainable and I would say socially uplifted kind of future. That's a lot about what Dharmalaya is there for. That's what Ravi and Michelle's vision was. These are some events that have happened at Dharmalaya over the years. Just my luck that Ravi and Michelle moved in just a block away. This is another property that's a couple blocks away. It's called Vistara. And this is a picture of the 1 acre property. This was a long, kind of narrow rectangle. This is what it looked like in the early going, and this is the same view several years later. We had a lot of work parties to dig out the blackberries. The place would, you could say, was underperforming. Certainly one of the ideals of permaculture is to take an underperforming item, whether it's social or it's physical, a suburban property, and upgrade it and make something more positive with it. That is a core ideal of permaculture for me. So we've had a lot of wonderful events over the years here at Vistara. This has been great. So this is actually next door to me. My next door neighbor also interested in permaculture and gardening. Bill had this gravel driveway dug out with a Bobcat front end loader and had it filled in with organic manufactured soil. So he took car space and turned it into garden space because this is the best place on this quarter-acre property for having a garden. This is the same view a few years later. So that was a good change just right next door. Um, these are just short looks at more examples of permaculture. Some of these events, the host of the event would claim permaculture, some maybe not, but all in all, this is completely about building community, restoring the natural world, making where we live a healthier place. These are all kindred projects, all about making River Road a better place for people and planet. Um, this is a work party in nearby Razor Park for restoring habitat there. This is a collaboration with the city. That's really important. The city of Eugene has programs that assist people in the neighborhoods to make their neighborhoods better places to live. I really think that's what cities ought to be doing. We've got some of that. This is a permaculture event at Dharmalaya. This is an image of adventure, permaculture, tourism. This group was coming through Eugene and they knew about some places in Eugene that all these people from all over the country had a chance to see some of what we're doing here in River Road. This is out front of my place right here. This is at Vistara. Once again, Ravi um, produced a program for a number of years called Community Transformations, which was kind of like a college age summer camp. It was residential, went on for about 5 weeks, and young people, there were 7, 8, 9, 10 per year, would come and learn about permaculture, about yoga, about community building, about healthy economics. This was just a wonderful program that Ravi put together. Some more images. This is a picture of loading up the concrete from my driveway. I depaved my driveway early on, and my friend Rob from another part of town wanted to have some of the concrete chunks. We rented a cement saw, cut up the driveway. I kept some of it, and Rob took some of it. And this is loading some of this up on a flatbed truck. Heiko, another nearby neighbor, turned his front yard into a food forest. It's quite a remarkable sight, a front yard food forest. We had a Veggie Start CSA at Vistara for a number of years, thanks to Nick. This location here, just right down the street from me, um, some solar, lots of grafted apple trees right here. But another example on these site tours of going around the neighborhood and seeing places and what people are actually doing on their properties. This was at the park right down the street from me where we met, where we do meet for site tours, and we're just getting ready to go off and see some locations. Again, this is Bill, my next door neighbor. He's very much into beekeeping. He's telling us about that. And this is a neighbor several blocks away, Nick, who has transformed he's got a duplex in the front and backyards look really, really different from where when he moved in. This is a view of Heiko's place a number of years ago. He's been doing that for, gee, I think like 12 or 14 years or so. So this is some pictures of the permaculture convergence. This is the biggest permaculture event of the year in the Pacific Northwest. I'd been involved with it for a number of years. And one year I thought, we could put on the permaculture event here in River Road, a suburban permaculture. convergence. Normally they happen out in the country somewhere, but we had one uh, in Eugene in our neighborhood, and we used the neighborhood recreation center. Wonderful working with the rec center. We turned the place basically into a permaculture university over the weekend. So this is a workshop and a site tour. We had an outdoor expo, lots of fun and games, registration. We figure something like 700 people participated in the convergence in one way or another. Another wonderful site here in the neighborhood is the Filbert Grove. The Filbert Grove is on public property. It's along the Greenway. And the city, as I mentioned, has programs to help people in their neighborhoods make their neighborhoods better places to live. Because I've been involved with my neighborhood association, I know about some of this stuff. So I contacted Lorna, who works for the city. This was her job. She's retired now, but her job was to help neighbors in the neighborhoods and in different parts of Eugene to initiate projects on public property. So she knew a woman who had an organic commercial Filbert Grove, and we met in the Filbert Grove and we walked around with Linda, and she gave us her ideas about what she thought we should do to restore this Filbert Grove. This is our first work party here. It was horribly overgrown, way too many small trunks. We had to cut from 25 to 30 to 4 or 5 trunks. You don't want 35 or 40. And of course, there were blackberries and English ivy just growing everywhere in here. So this has just been one of my favorite projects here in the neighborhood. This is, a 6, 7 minute bike ride away. You can see the river from here. You can see the iconic Spencer's Butte off in the distance from the Filbert Grove. We just had a lot of great work parties, and it's just one of my favorite places. And thanks to the city for having this kind of program that encourages and empowers citizen initiative. I really like that. This is a very recent event. This was last September. Our neighborhood association put this event on, the River Festival. And actually, this picture here and this picture here, that's in the Filbert Grove. So it's a nice shady place. We did apple cider making. There was a song circle. There were all kinds of community organizations there, including master gardeners. We had the local bike shop there to do bike tune-ups. There was another location for our event. This is back in Razor Park. That was another site with community groups focused more on biology education. So our neighborhood association put this event together for, of course, the community. And there's so many aspects of this that give us kind of a preview of what a more ecological future could look like, because this was all very low energy intensive. We used electricity, of course, for the apple cider, but a lot of this was self-made. This was just acoustic music here. Lots of education for young people right here along the bikeway. So this really fits my ideal of what a a neighborhood association, making life more wholesome, more healthy in our neighborhoods. So this is another part of the presentation. When we had the our program a couple weeks ago, we actually had people from these organizations who described those organizations. So I'm not going to go into detail, but each one in the slideshow, there's a link to their website so you can find out more. But these are three entities that have an important role to play. They are allies and assets. Almost any community has more allies and assets than we really know about in terms of sharing the goal to create a healthier place where we can live, a sustainable place where we can live. So the school garden project, there are a couple of school gardens here in River Road, and that is a nonprofit that has classroom curriculum, and there's garden outside. Kids learn science from gardening, and they learn a term I like really a lot is food literacy, how to eat healthy, how to enjoy vegetables. Take that information home and even educate their family about healthy food choices. That's just great. These are some pictures from their website, their learning, practical skills. This is actually from the school garden near me. What a nice garden. We just had a work party there a couple of weeks ago. Some more of the nearby school garden. This, of course, some of the produce. Kids just love it. Kids just deserve the opportunity to learn and have healthy ways to manage their lives, to learn these kinds of skills. Absolutely. This is the whole garden right here. And also, it's a place for people in the neighborhood to volunteer and help out. That's important as well. It's fun to go and make friends in a positive way. Auntie Mim's Garden. This is hosted by a church here in the neighborhood. Um, so this is a picture. It's really grown over the years. This was just a vacant lot. Um, the church has a fair amount of property, and they agreed to host Mim's Garden. It's kind of a community garden, has a connection with the NAACP, National Association Advancement of Colored People. There's that uh, connection to it as well. Here is in the early going, and this is the church here, and some other pictures. Well, it's a nice looking garden. A friend of mine has been really helpful with this, and they also have a seed library on site where people can come and they can get seeds for their own gardens too. That's important. And they collect seeds here from the garden as well. Look at this basket making. That's really nice. And this is a picture of the seed library. And here's Mike. This is actually at the river celebration, and he's got a table with information about the seed library, sharing information about the resources we have for gardening here in the neighborhood. And of course, gardens do deliver a lot more than fruit and veggies. So the third speaker we had was with Oregon State University Master Gardeners Program. Wow, they have a lot to offer. They have classes. They have a phone line you can call and describe your issue with your garden, and somebody there can give you some ideas about what to do. A newsletter, and this is the garden clinic, and um, having events. These are all classes and workshops. I think most of them are free. And all of these, this is some of these coming up um, starting in February, going into the springtime. All of these learning opportunities empower people to have successful food production at home. And I guess they have a catalog too, free publications. So that was important. So again, these three entities invited because they have all a shared vision of food and healthy lifestyles. So we're going to take a look a little bit, sort of taking some of these ideas about gardening and about building social capital, about meeting our neighbors, and the economic and social aspects that gardens can help, no pun intended, to cultivate and help to grow these types of relationships. So again, this is my property here. I've had literally thousands of people visit over the years to see what suburbia can look like. Gardens deliver more than veggies. They can enhance public and personal health, reduce eco footprints, build community cohesion, boost preparedness and resilience, can even create jobs and boost the local economy, help mitigate many of today's major downward sloping trends. Those are economic, social, ecological, personal, even spiritual. Gardens can produce many positive social potentials and actions. Gardens can inspire biophilia, the idea of caring and appreciating and valuing, respecting nature. And gardens can also help us reimagine and transform our lives, our homes, and our neighborhoods. We'll see a little more of all of that. So, aspects of gardens and food production. Um, these are essentially tasks that are available for us to be part of. Some of them we can do on our own, some we do with other people. Edible landscapes, container gardening, allies and assets, work parties, neighbors helping neighbors, farming suburbia, front yard gardens, our neighborhood association, suburban permaculture. We'll take a look at a rundown apartment complex in Portland that's become an eco village. That fits in too. East Blair Housing Co-op here in Eugene, that fits in too. Block planning, whether formal or ad hoc, very interesting what block planning can tell us. And then we'll see a couple images. What could our neighborhood look like if we really wanted to transform in a paradigm shift direction? How can we take what's already here and turn it into a future that's uh, in my opinion, healthier than what we have now. We can't start over. We have to take what we have now already and repurpose what we already have, including our own selves. So this image here just is intended to emphasize that the idea of what gardens can deliver, it is, for me, it's 50-50. I've got lots of garden. I produce a lot of food here at my own house. That's important. But the community building, the relationships that we can build by way of gardens, just as important as the food production. Of course, not everybody has a yard, but container gardening, these are all examples of container gardening. People have container gardens in Manhattan, up on the 40th floor. So one doesn't necessarily have to have a yard. Containers can be productive places to grow food as well. I've mentioned allies and assets in the neighborhood and community. I've mentioned the city programs that helped us with the Filbert Grove. There's the neighborhood association, even programs like Neighborhood Watch, Map Your Neighborhood, Emergency Preparedness. These are all uh, programs from the mainstream that very easily can be enhanced by way of permaculture and gardening, of course. All these different community entities, the Red Cross, the PTA, the Scouts, senior groups, there's a place for everyone to be involved in the creating a more sustainable future. This is kind of an all hands on deck kind of a situation. There's a place for everybody. Uh, Communities of faith. I don't go into this detail here, but the wisdom of the world's great spiritual traditions, all of these communities of faith share those ideals of modesty of lifestyle, care for the natural world, service to the community, um, uh, uplift of the spirit, and being uh, responsible, accountable for our actions. Faith communities should be helping to lead the charge towards sustainability, and some are, but they're all on the same team. We're actually all on the same team. So work parties are a big part of this. As mentioned earlier, one of the ideals here in this program is to find people who want to have help to put a garden in where they live. So that is an opportunity, not just here in River Road, but any set of neighbors can help do that too. People can take whatever types of initiatives they want to take where they live for a positive and sustainable future. This is another work party at the Filbert Grove. This is at a park where we want to keep pesticides out of the park. This was taking out part of Jean's front yard to turn into garden. This is another location in the neighborhood, a work party to increase food production. Another aspect of this type of movement towards a more ecological future, of course, is doing projects with our friends and neighbors. This happens to be a laurel hedge on my property. My neighbor and I agreed we didn't want the hedge. It was right on the property line. Neither one of us could do anything with that hedge on our own. So we had Mike, our neighbor, come in with a bobcat and take out what we couldn't take out ourselves. This was pretty sizable shrubbery right here, but this is when the shrub's gone, and both Bill and I have replaced the shrubbery with edible landscaping. Both of us, again, we could not have done that project on our own. The shrub, all like 10 of them, were right on the property line. And of course, here's River Road Community Organization. This is a map of Eugene. These are all different neighborhood organizations. There's about 23, I think, in Eugene. Many cities have neighborhood associations. Not all cities do, but many do. Awesome organization to become involved with. When you're part of the neighborhood association, you can be part of the agenda. So permaculture and gardening and these types of ideas are a part of the agenda of our neighborhood association. So this fellow here lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and I talked with him on the phone one time for quite some time, and his effort, and it was a challenge. It's not like you say, I'm going to make a living out of farming other people's suburban properties. Of course, it's an excellent idea. Making it happen is can be a challenge, but this is a potential. People, if there's any hope for the future, people are going to do exactly what this fellow has been doing in Asheville, North Carolina, Patchwork Alliance, farming suburbia. Let's take a look just at a few front yard gardens. Front yard gardens are kind of special because when you're out front, just look at all these, you're out on the street and you meet people who are walking by. It's a great way to make friends. And then, of course, when you have a front yard garden, you're making a statement that says, I have a garden, here it is. And it tends to encourage other people to have gardens too. They sometimes happen in clusters. This garden right here, there's 5 front yard gardens in a row on this north side of the street because that's where they have the best sunlight on their properties. There's 5 in a row right here. Here's some other front yard gardens. We'd like to see those. Another one here a couple blocks away. This one uh, several blocks away. These are all in River Road, and there's lots more. I only have a few right here. These are all nearby. So again, here's a graphic of my place. And I have just lots of edible landscaping. All these stars indicate a fruit or nut producing tree and a rainwater system. This is a pretty full-blown example of what permaculture can look like on a suburban property. This is the south side here. This is the north side. The patio, the south side patio is now an enclosed passive solar space. These here are rainwater tanks. I've got 6,500 gallons of rainwater storage. There's lots of elevated landscaping where the landscaping is up above where your head is. I had a driveway and took out my driveway. I've got food growing where I used to have a driveway. It just goes on and on. You can certainly do a pause and take a closer look. So, what's the potential? Not everybody lives in a suburban house. A lot of people live in apartments. So, apartments can have an enormous amount of food production going on as well. Of course, not all apartments do have property around them, but a lot do. The story here of Kyle Ash Eco Village in Portland is just one of the best stories I know. They have a website. It's Kyle Ash Eco Village. You could even just look up Kyle Ash, Portland, Oregon. You'll find it an excellent website. But this was a run down apartment complex. It's 35 units, not a big apartment complex, but a friend and his wife bought this and they transformed a run-down apartment complex into a thriving eco-village. This is not co-housing, it's rental. So you pay monthly to be there. Of course, Ole and Maitre are very uplifted types of people, who happen to be the landlords. But there is a big focus on community building. There's a big focus on food production. Kyle Ash reaches out to the neighborhood in terms of emergency preparedness in lots of different ways. There's just more here that's positive. Uh, than I have time to even describe, and I'm sure there's lots more positive that I don't even know about. But this garden right here, this circular Mandela garden, used to be a parking lot. The parking lot was taken out, and they have a garden now. They have a car share. So some people who don't want to have their own car, they can do a car share, and this is bikes, composting. It just goes on and on. This is a role model for what apartment complexes could be. Certainly, when they bought the property next door, that's not possible everywhere. But almost any apartment complex has the capacity and the potential to create more social life, more learning, more opportunity to uplift that kind of living with their neighbors, with the owners. Kyle Ash is just a great example of what can be done with a whole different kind of urban land use. So I mentioned before block planning. Block planning is a land use renewal scheme. The city of Eugene recognizes this. The city of Eugene paid a consultant 40 years ago to try to get block planning off the ground. It didn't quite happen. But I've talked many times with the consultant about what that experience was like, and the intention is to get people who are neighbors on a block to come up with a block plan. How can they redevelop the block in a way that more suits their needs? Um, uh, the rules and regulations don't go away, but with a block plan, you can make changes to your property like setbacks, land use, structures, landscaping, even transportation. As a group with a block plan, you can be more creative with the property that you have available. Everybody still maintains their private property, but with the block plan, for example, this is a theoretical block plan. This is the before, this is after. You would have garages turned into living spaces. You could have edible landscaping. You could depave. You could have small businesses creating all kinds of wonderful social interactions and opportunities with block planning. I have a lot more about block planning on my website, suburbanpermaculture.org. There's more on block planning. Um, these are pictures from N Street Co-op in Davis, California. I've been there to visit. This is essentially block planning what it can actually look like in the real world. It's too bad we have to go all the way to Davis to really see so much of this. But in a mid 60s suburban neighborhood, uh, some people had the vision to take fences down and start out with this idea over a couple decades, several decades. When a house came up for sale, somebody interested in this idea would buy the house. Now it's almost the entire block and even across the street. This is looking down at N Street Co-op. The photos we just saw probably right around in here somewhere, but you can see there's no fences. People can do landscaping to maintain their privacy, but taking the fences out builds community. Uh, it frees up the the urban suburban landscape for better use when you don't have a fence. So of course this all has to be very much by by personal preference, all very voluntary. But when these houses came up for sale, people who knew about what was going on bought these houses. And I wish there were a lot more examples of block planning because this is a great way to build community when you know your neighbors and you make time to collaborate with your neighbors. This is a different location. This is East Blair Housing Co-op here in Eugene. We've had many site tours here at East Blair. The co-op owns these properties in these rectangles. So what that means is the co-op can manage these properties in a way like a block plan, but the co-op owns all these properties. So it's not individual property owners who are making these agreements. It's the co-op, but it simulates the same kind of dynamic that the property owned by the co-op can be developed in a synchronized kind of a way. These here are small townhouses. And of course, there's no garden here, but over here, there's garden space over here. So people who live here can have some garden space over here. They also have a sauna over here that anybody in the group can use. This here is their community house where they can have meetings. The neighborhood has access to using this for events. Also, of course, one of my favorite uh, actions that they've done is they took out a 10 car parking lot right here. Skater lives over here. This is a relatively new property here, but the co-op requires participation. There's different committees. This just doesn't happen by itself. So the part of the benefit is that people learn communication skills. They learn how to work with each other. And that's really, really important. I think we're going to be needing a lot more of that kind of skill as time goes on, of people knowing how to listen, how to speak clearly. Having those types of social skills is just going to be more and more important as I think we're inevitably going to have to change the way we live and become more uh, reliant and more cooperative with each other. Absolutely. This is the shared garden space I mentioned right here. This is inside the community house. This here used to be a parking lot. There's a fire pit right here, picnic table. This is all edible landscaping. This used to be asphalt right here. I saw it when I first moved into Eugene. They were taking the parking lot out. So this is something over 20 years old later. Um, because there is this coordination with each other. This is the tool room. People in the co-op can borrow tools. People don't have to have all their own stuff. This reduces ecological footprints. They share washing machines in the inside of the community house. So this is one of the main reasons for this type of social economic choice is to reduce ecological footprints and also to have a good time. Should be mentioned that any group of neighbors could decide they want to do this. Doesn't have to have anybody's blessing, doesn't have to have anybody's permission. People who live next door or near each other, they can simulate, they can take down fences, they can share tools. These are all important tasks in those programs like Neighborhood Watch and Mapping Your Neighborhood. Uh, when people make friends, when people meet, oh, you're the neighbor down the street. Gee, you got a beautiful front yard garden. When people meet, they can start hatching out all kinds of good ideas that's a benefit for everybody. So how could this maybe look closer to home, this idea of block planning? Well, I took an image from Google and I colored it in. This is all theoretical. It's all very hopeful, but this is my property right now. And this is essentially what my property looks like right here. You remember that schematic? This is, and these are the nearby homes. These are from Google right here, next door on both sides. There's a fair amount of open space. This is on another street. So um, the task here is to provide a little bit of an idea about what what could our neighborhood maybe look like if everybody said, yeah, that's a great idea. We've got time and interest. We want to put our time and money into making where we live a really awesome place that's more secure, more healthy, more fun for everybody. So take a look at this line right here, kind of meanders through here. Obviously, it goes from this house to this house. And then this circle right here, have that in mind when we see the next picture. This is my place. This is my own kind of fantasy. Imagine all these houses, they decide that they want to do gardening, and a lot of them already do, actually. Bits and pieces of this already exist, but say there's a synchronized effort to take down the fences and make better use of all of this suburban space, a playground here, some food forests, vegetable gardens, elevated landscaping. This could be a little gazebo. These rectangles here would be small detached structures, kind of like tiny homes. They might be associated with these particular houses nearby. Of course, this one, I'm sitting inside this one right here, right now. That one, this is all real right here. And this is next door where the driveway was taken out as well. So this is just a a wonderful thought about what our neighborhood nearby could look like if people wanted to do this. And of course, any neighborhood, the neighbors could cook up their own plan for whatever they wanted to do. But food production, gardens is a huge part of creating this kind of reality. And it's also a huge part as a catalyst for people to meet and come up with these ideas, to share these ideas and turn good ideas into action. And of course, biophilia is if we care more about the natural world and how dependent we are on uh, the natural world will definitely appreciate that. We're not behaving too well towards nature, and we need to all improve on that with our ecological footprints. Garden review, we saw a little bit of history of gardens in River Road, lots of allies and assets to work with. Gardens can be a catalyst for all kinds of change and benefits at the personal level, with our neighbors, with those nearby, with the entire neighborhood and the community. A garden can help address many social, economic, and ecological challenges. uh, Unlimited social potentials and actions, and we don't really need permission from anybody. This is self-initiating with our friends and neighbors. Gardens can uplift the spirit and help us reimagine and transform our homes and our neighborhoods. And I really like this rectangle here. Each two of these three uh, items coming together creates more of the third. Assets and allies creates more actions. Actions and allies creates more assets, and so on. Each two together produce more of the third. Gardens can be a huge part of this kind of virtuous triangle. So gardens deliver more than veggies, local economy, positive human potential, reimagine suburbia, good for the environment, mitigate climate change, personal and public health, positive community culture. One nice garden leads to another, greater resilience and preparedness for an uncertain future. And there are a lot more benefits here. People can create a lot of their own benefits. What are your priorities with your time and with your money? So that is what we have. Nice presentation. Again, you can be glad to share this link. This isn't only for River Road neighborhood in Eugene. This could apply to any neighborhood. Every neighborhood and community has a lot more allies and assets than we realize, and that starts with our own selves. So thanks for watching.